We're continuing our series on the phrases of the preamble of the Constitution in order to help us to have a good understanding and a common base for working forward to a more tranquil form of politics. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. In our examination of the meaning of the preamble of the Constitution, we have addressed we the people and in order to form a more perfect union. Here are two high school students and how they explained our next phrase, establish justice. All are equal under the eyes of the law. To make sure that the government does its job and does what it says it is going to do. Quite different mental approaches to the term and the charge to our representatives to establish justice. This phrase of the preamble is rooted in history, and it's rooted in very recent memories of the framers of the Constitution. The lack of a system of justice that ensured fair and equal treatment of the people has been the primary reason for the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution against England. The framers wanted to ensure a fair and equal system of rights, administrative laws, and justices for all Americans as they wrote the Constitution. Now, again, we're not claiming that the Constitution itself is establishing justice, but this Constitution, in order to secure a more perfect union, provided a framework, I should say provides a framework for cooperation, continued dialogue, and problem solving to day by day, year by year, century by century, keep the work of establishing justice as a central focus of we the people and our representative government. John Patrick writes, justice is one of the main goals of democratic constitutions, along with achievement of order, security, liberty, and the common good. In the 51st paper of the Federalists, Madison proclaims justice is the end of government. It is the end of civil society. It ever has been and ever will be pursued until it be obtained or until liberty be lost in the pursuit. Now, don't confuse it. I will read it again. James Madison is not saying that justice is how government ends. He's using the word end to mean the goal. The mandate, so to speak, of government. The vision of success, or the demonstration of success. So again, in the 51st paper of the Federalist, James Madison proclaims, justice is the end of government. It is the end of civil society. It has been and ever will be pursued until it be obtained or until liberty be lost in the pursuit. May God help us that Mr. Madison's last statement should ever happen to us in America. So Mr. Patrick asks, so what is justice and how is it pursued in a constitutional democracy? A government establishes justice when it equally guarantees the human rights of each person within its authority. Just as each person is equal in his or her membership in the human species, each person possesses the same immutable human rights, which the government is duty-bound to protect equally. By contrast, The government that acts unjustly, or I should say the government acts unjustly if it protects the human rights of some individuals under its authority while denying the same protection to others. The racial segregation laws that prevailed in some parts of the United States into the mid-1960s, for example, denied justice to African American people. America's racial segregation laws were unjust laws because they prevented Black Americans from enjoying the same rights and opportunities as other citizens of the United States. When Martin Luther King opposed unjust racial segregation laws, he asserted that the worth and dignity of each person must be respected equally because each one is equally a member of the human species. Thus, any action by the government or group of citizens that violated the worth and dignity of any person, as did the racial segregation laws, was unjust and should not be tolerated. King and his followers therefore protested these laws and eventually brought about their demise. That is an excellent example for the work we have to continue today. For ours has been a hard-fought battle to establish justice for all. Religion and even science, let alone social customs and European attitudes of superiority, have fought intractably against establishing justice for the Native Americans who were here before us, against establishing justice for Africans brought here as slaves, and then again for their descendants after the Constitution was amended to make it clear that they are all now fully Americans, against extending immigration and civil rights to the Mexican nationals who suddenly became United States citizens when their homes and states were awarded to the United States government as prizes of war. And right up until today, for those from Spanish-speaking countries who seek legal access to live in the United States and enjoy the fruits of our freedom and liberty. Yes, ours has been a hard-fought battle to establish justice for all. Religion, even science, let alone social customs and European attitudes of superiority, have all fought intractably against establishing justice for the people from Asia and the Middle East. Even after importing the Chinese by the thousands to build our ports on our Continental Railroad, we passed laws taking away their family reunification rights, a right freely and with great fanfare extended to the European newcomers. These punitive ideas and restrictive quotas against Asian peoples remained on the books in one form or another until late in the 1950s, with almost no protests from any whites or even the other minorities among us. I have to bite my tongue to not tell you some illustrations of how that prejudice against Asians was deeply embedded in our other minorities, just as it had been in the white culture. In many ways, these groups that I've mentioned, and let alone our own poverty-stricken citizens, our own less able citizens, and many others, are still not accorded equal justice in our towns, cities, institutions, including government institutions. When it comes to justice, we may provide more than a vast majority of countries in the world, but we must never settle for the status quo. For evil men, heartless business tyrants, and others in the institutions will continue to undermine our goal of establishing justice. We, the people, must remain vigilant to hold the government and ourselves accountable, insist on the continuous quest for a more perfect union with true justice for all. We must also be on guard against creating new classes of people who are no longer treated equally under the rule of law. To not, in the name of justice, create new injustices. Many of us have not come from favored American financial, social, or ethnic groups. Many of us have been held back and prevented from the enjoyment of equality before the law by our social class, financial class, and now by the new demon of injustice, our political class. Believe me, it cuts both ways. We implore our government and our fellow citizens to recognize that unequal justice and unequal opportunity is a colorblind issue, even though persons of color have been so universally held back. And we, the people, must continue to hold our government to its intended role of establishing justice, providing laws and punishments in a fair manner. In 6 weeks, during the hot Philadelphia summer of 1787, the framers of our Constitution found a way to agree on establishing justice as a basic principle of our government. We, the 5%, believe that with cooperation, dialogue, respect, and problem solving, we too can find a way forward to begin fairness for all citizens and establish a greater justice than our country has ever known. We, the 5%, believe that with cooperation, dialogue, respect, and problem solving, we too can find a way forward to begin fairness for all citizens and establish greater justice than our country has ever